Hello everyone, welcome back to another Dylan Talks Movies film review. Continuing with my top 200 films, and we're just talking about all the films I love, telling them about them, you know, the impact they had on me, the impact they had on cinema, and why you think you should watch it. So for this film, we're talking about one of my top favorite films of all time. I know I made top 200, but I feel like some point in my life I gotta make a top 10. But this film will definitely be in it, and this film is the 1971 Stanley Kubrick film, A Clockwork Orange. Let's get into it. So, just heads up, on my Letterboxd, you know, like the 4 film favorites, A Clockwork Orange is on there because it's just one of my favorites. I'm gonna tell you guys why. So, Clockwork Orange, directed by Stanley Kubrick, based on the novel by Anthony Burgess, starring Malcolm McDowell, great actor, Patrick Mage, William Clark. So Clockwork Orange. So Clockwork Orange, considered one of the most controversial films ever made back then. It's like one of the 2 films that are rated X. Well, it was rated X at the time because it was just so graphic. Well, by today's standards, it's not overly graphic. It's more disturbing, and it's a very disturbing film, but it's very artistic and beautiful, and I love it. So I think that film was nominated for Best Picture, and the film Midnight Cowboy, which I think is also rated X, also did it win Best Picture? I think it did. I know it was nominated, and that Clockwork Orange is one of the films that rated X nominated for the Oscars. So Clockwork Orange it takes place in a dystopian, futuristic London. We center on this gang leader named Alex DeLarge, played by Malcolm McDowell. Great performance of his in this film. He has a gang called the Droogs. And what's interesting in the film, that in the book, Anthony Burgess kind of made up his own language. It's mostly English, but this language called Natsat, and it's basically a combination of English, German, Latin, Russian, all these different words, and just happy polylochies, great yarbles, blocos, all these different words. I'm like, what? But once you watch the film, you kind of understand what they're kind of saying. They're this gang. We got Alex and the guy's friends, Pete, Georgie, and Dim. Alex is the leader. They wear these bowler hats, these white long shirts and white pants and boots, and have these canes and chains and this weird exotic makeup. And the film's narrated by Alex, talking about his life. He goes to these, this exotic, milk bar that they basically drink, milk with drugs in it. Weird concept, but okay. And basically, throughout the night, Alex and his friends they just do very horrible acts and sins. They beat up a drunk old man. They get into a gang fight with another gang. They go around stealing cars, and then very, very graphically, I don't mean to get too graphic, but he breaks into a house, to the house of a writer and his wife, and basically he beats up the writer, and Alex and his gangs rapes his wife. It's not that graphic, but it's kind of disturbing. And he still lives with his family. He has a pet snake. He has a lot of exotic art in his room. He loves Beethoven, obsessed with it. Every time he listens to Beethoven, he just gets these violent mood swings. He always says ultra violent, he just gets turned on by all these weird things. And by day to day, he skips school. He has a probation parole officer, Mr. Deltoy. He checks up on him, and then he goes to the record store. He picks up these 2 high school girls and just has sex with them in this weird fast motion sequence to a synthesized version of a William Tell overture. Like, again, this film's pretty crazy. So meanwhile, you know, like, during the film, early in the film, no, like, Georgie and Alex get in this dispute, like, I think, like, maybe I should be the leader of this group, and Alex says, I'm your Drugan leader, like, you do what I tell you. And then, like, it's kind of an outvote, like, Georgie and Dim want to be leaders, and then Alex is kind of pissed about this, so, like, he gets into a little fuss with them, and this is awesome scene on this, like, flat block marina, that's what he calls it, and then, like, it's all in slow-mo, like, playing Rossellini's The Thieving Magpie, where he just puts them in the water, and just cuts them, and just, like, and the lady's like, we're back to all wars, I'm always your leader and stuff. So the next crime they plan is to go to this house in the middle of nowhere, owned by this lady with a bunch of cats, and Alex plans to rob her, and so Alex breaks in while his friends are outside. Gets into this fuss with the lady, and basically they get into this fight, and Alex accidentally kills the lady with a phallic-shaped male appendage, and ironically, and then when the police are coming, his Druid friends betray him, knock him in the head with a milk bottle, and run away, and then Alex gets arrested. And then he finds out that he later killed her. He's like, you're a murderer. So Alex gets sent to prison for 2 years. And then, you know, he's just stuck there. And then after 2 years, you know, he's trying to reevaluate himself a bit. You know, spending time in prison, you know, just helping out. You know, just reading the Bible, just thinking all these evil, violent, sick and twisted thoughts. And then he hears about this new treatment going on called the Ludovico Treatment, which basically is kind of a experimental brainwashing technique that's been newly discovered that makes the criminal, even the worst of criminals and bad people, turn into good, lawful citizens. So they inspire the prison guards, like, to have the guy who's, like, runs it, like, to come look at the prisons, and then he gets intrigued by Alex. So Alex plans to do the treatment. So he goes through this phase. He moves into, like, to the hospital for a period of time. He, like, takes all this serum shots, and then, you know, he does, and then first step of his phrase, he watches violent, shocking imagery films with basically, not to get too scary, with lit locks on his eyes, and a doctor just there assisting him with putting drops in the eyes to make sure his eyes aren't dried up. And fun fact, well, not so fun, during that scene, because those lit locks are usually for surgery, not for, like, actual conscious people. So when the doctor put those on in those scenes, Malcolm McDowell scratched his cornea with the metal thing, leaving him temporarily blind, so he had to go to the hospital, but luckily he was okay, thank God. So he just watches this shocking imagery, and he starts to get sick, you know, seeing people get up, beaten up, seeing all these people raped, and he's like, almost like, oh God, I'm getting sick. The next day, he's watching this imagery of World War II Nazi propaganda footage while playing the Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Fourth Movement, and he's starting to get really sick. He's like, I'm cured, and it's the Beethoven, because he loves Beethoven, and, like, the Beethoven's, like, making him, oh God, this is so wrong. So after all this treatment, experimentation, they decide to put it to the test. So they hire, do like a little performance for people. Like, he gives a person, just slaps him, just like kicks him down, and then he's like, lick the bottom of my shoe. And then Alex is starting to get sick and decides to do it. And then they bring this topless woman on, and you know, Alex tries to reach for her breast, and then Alex starts getting really sick, and he just can't do it anymore. And then, like, Alex is like, I'm okay. And then, like, and he has no choice, but like he's free, he's cured, he's out to go into the world, ready to start new. It's been 2 years, so he starts going to his parents' house. It was like as a surprise visit, and finds out his room and stuff has changed, and his parents have another person living with him to rent his room, and the parents kind of feel guilty about this, and the new dude's like, no, you should be ashamed of yourselves, hearing all the sick things you've done. And Alex tries to fight back, but because of the treatment, he can't fight, he can't be violent, he can't have sexual, like, Beethoven thoughts, like, he's, like all his strengths are his weakness now, and that's like, one of the, like, great things about this film, I just see all the crazy evil things you've done, and just all that turn on you just make you weak and vulnerable. And then he gets kicked out of the house. Well, he chooses to run off because his family kind of let him down. So while he's on the street, he encounters the bum that he beat up in the opening scene of the movie, and he recognizes him, and and Alex gets beaten up by these bums, and then like he starts to get sick, and then the cops come. And surprise, surprise, the cops are his 2 old gang members, Georgie and Dim, and they recognize Alex, and then Alex is like, oh God, I'm so screwed. So for revenge, as police officers, and this is like police brutality stuff, they take Alex into the woods, and they beat the crap out of him. Like, they drown him, they beat the crap out of him in the cold, and they leave him there. Alex is sick, he's cold, it's like it's in the storm, he's just wandering off, like he has no belongings, he has nothing, and then he stops by a house, and his luck just keeps getting better, people. He goes to the house that belonged to the writer that Alex raped his wife, and the thing is that the writer didn't recognize him because Alex had like a weird mask on, so everyone recognized him. So the writer and his bodyguard, who the bodyguard is played by David Prowse, who plays the physical interpretation of Darth Vader in the Star Wars films. So that's cool trivia. And so like he takes him in. The writer heard about him through the papers about like the ladders who just did the treatment experiment. So the writer calls a few friends just to interview this guy. And then while Alex is getting comfortable, just taking a bath, and I forgot to mention this, like this is one of the most pivotal, shocking, like arguably iconic scenes in the movie. Like during the whole rape scene, Alex, and this is improvised by Malcolm McDowell, he sings Singing in the Rain by Gene Kelly, the song during that whole scene, and it just very haunting and disturbing. So later in the movie, when he's taking a bath, he sings Singing in the Rain, and then the writer just had this look of realization, this shock PTSD moment, and by the way, the writer is now in a wheelchair now. So they did a lot of damage to him. Like, he was walking in the first movie, now he's in a wheelchair. It's like, oh God. And this is 2 years later. So basically, he reckoned that the writer knows that that's the dude who raped his wife and made him crippled and broke into his house with all his gang. So he plans to put something in his food and in the wine to like drug him and pass him, and then the interviews come in talking about like, violent and the Beethoven. So after Alex gets knocked out, he wakes up in a room, and basically Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, second movement, starts blasting. The speakers are blasting through the walls into a locked room. He's just like being tortured. He's like, turn it off, turn it off. And then the writer's just looking up, smiling, all evil and just devilish. Like he's like, how you like it? And then like Alex can't take the pain and the torture. And so he decides to do the one thing he could. And he's in a high room. So he opens a window and he literally like jumps out the window trying to kill himself. And fun fact, how they did that scene, that Kubrick dropped his camera, and it's just crazy. But luckily, God had different plans for Alex, and Alex is still alive. He's in the hospital now. He has casts on and like some like just scars like on his arms, and like he's okay. He's alive. He just woke up from a long coma, and then the news found out that because of this, the writer got arrested. The people who did the experimental treatment are out of business and blamed on for this, and his parents welcome him back. And by the end of the film, the main guy who hired him to do the treatment just came by and said, like, no hard feelings. I hope we can be friends. I have a job opportunity for you. I hope you'll like it. Good pay, good raise, good food, good housing. Just give him a second chance. Like, I hope we become friends. And so the end of the film, basically, the reporters come in with the cameras, just shaking hands, Alex shaking hands with dude while he's in his hospital bed. And then, like, they're playing the last notes of Beethoven, Ninth Symphony. And then slowly, while being hell happy, because it's Beethoven, and we thought last time Beethoven, he tried to go torture. So, like, he does the infamous Kubrick stare, which is a trademark by Stanley Kubrick that he used in his film. The scary, moving towards the camera, devilish, evil, twisted look. And and then Alex is back to his old ways, his violent, evil ways, his violent, sexual, robbing, Beethoven, ultra-violent ways. And at the end of the film, he simply says, I was cured all right. End of movie. So that's kind of the whole thing of Clockwork Orange. What does the Clockwork Orange mean? Anthony Burgess said he heard the phrase, the Clockwork Orange came from, he heard it from this person. He said the phrase is as queer as a Clockwork Orange. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. And this film is it's disturbing, but Malcolm McDowell brings out a really great performance. It's artistic, it's disturbing. The soundtrack is great. The synthesized music's by Wendy Carlos. Great composer. Of course, a brilliant direction by Kubrick. This is like one of the most like controversial of all Kubrick's films. Like literally he got death threats from this movie, and there was like similar like murders at the time that was inspired by this film. And Britain kind of like banned the film for a bit until Kubrick passed away in '99, where they start airing the film. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And of course, like the movie takes main inspiration like MK Ultra and like the brainwashing stuff, and then dystopian stuff. And the movie's just so beautiful. Like the setting and the architecture, the colorful and the darkness, and it's just something about this film. It's just like a breath of fresh air, and it's personally my favorite Stanley Kubrick film of all time. It's so good. And of course, I mentioned before with Dr. Strangelove, my 2001 reviews, I went to the Stanley Kubrick exhibition in LA. And of course, and I started to like Clockwork Orange back then. And you had no idea the excitement I had when I saw all the memorabilia in Clockwork Orange. I saw the milk bar lady mannequin statues they used in the film. There was like a mannequin of Alex's original costume with the boots and the hat and the cane and all. Had his record player. It had the newspaper clippings. Had like production videos and costume concept photos and all these different things. It was just so cool to see. It was amazing. And I believe for one year, from year in Halloween, I think it was my freshman year at high school, I actually dressed up as Alex for Halloween. And that was a cool costume I put together because my grandfather had made a shillelagh, which looks very, very identical to Alex's cane. Like almost like near identical. And I was like perfect. So yeah, Clockwork Orange, I love this movie. One of my all-time favorites, like hands down, So good. If you haven't seen it, like, please, it's one of Kubrick's best. Like, again, it's a very disturbing film. It's not for the faint of heart. Like, but it's not that graphic. I mean, like, when people saw it back then, 1971, people were shocked as hell. Like, and Coast Guard was rated X, but now it's rated R. They changed the rating. Like, not much editing has been happening. It's like, it is disturbing, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful visual stunning film. Kubrick's best, so great. I recommend you guys to watch it. It's definitely one of my all-time favorites. I think that's all. Hope you guys like this review. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more content. Let me know what's your favorite Stanley Kubrick film of all time and why. You know, like me on Twitter, Instagram. I'm active on Instagram and my Letterboxd. That's pretty much it. Hope you guys like this review. Again, Clockwork Orange. And all I say is that, viddy well.